So hello and welcome to the Maths Guide, and today we're going to be looking at a different question of percentages, which is finding the original value when we've found a percentage of it. So for example, if I asked you the question, what is 30% of 200? Well, you know to do that, you would write 30% as a fraction or as a decimal, 0.3, of meaning times and 200. So it would be 0.3 times by 200, giving you your answer 60. However, if I told you that 30% of some value is 60, how would I find the unknown value? Well, in this question, we already know that 30% of 200 is 60, so we know that the unknown value is 200, but how do we normally find this? So we're going to be looking at undoing. So we've done something, we've found 30% of something, and we want to undo that. So given the question, if 60% of a number is 240, what is the number? Well, there's several different ways to answer this question. So let's have a look at three different methods. First of all, there's the unitary method, which means finding one first, which I'll explain later. There's the algebraic method, which means using algebra and solving an equation. And there's the undoing method, which is what we're going to be applying quite a lot. So pay attention to that one. First of all, what is the unitary method? The unitary method is something that you would use in direct proportion. If I told you that 60 pence cost 240 cents, and I asked you to find out what 100 pence cost, what you would do is you would first of all find out what 1 pen costs. Well, we know 60 pence cost 240, so 1 pen costs 240 divided by 60 pence, which is 4 cents per pen. And then I can easily find out what 100 pence cost by multiplying that 4 cents by 100 to get 400 cents. So similarly, if you think back to the question, I'm telling you that 60% of a value is worth 240, and I want to know what 100% or the whole value is worth. So to get from 60% to 100%, I can use the unitary method, which means finding 1% is worth 4, and then finding 100% is worth 400. And laying that work out more neatly, you would write down 60% is 240, 1% is 4, 240 divided by 60 is the 4, and then you would find 100% is 400. If you don't like the idea of writing 60%, it's more meaningful to say 60% of the original value is 240, so 1% of the original value is 4, and 100% of the original value is 400. So 100% of the original value is the original value. That's what we're trying to find. So the original value is 400. That's using the unitary method. The algebraic method. If I'm told that 60% of an unknown value is 200, we know to find 60% of something, we go 0.6 multiplied by that value to get our answer. So we have 0.6 by the unknown value gives us 200. Now in algebra, we often use a letter to represent an unknown value. So in this question, let's use the letter V for the value to represent this unknown value. So I have 0.6 multiplied by some unknown value. So that's 0.6. V, meaning 0.6 times V equals 200. And then in algebra, to solve this and to find V, I divide by the coefficient. I divide across by the number in front of V to get my answer. So I find V is equal to 200 divided by 0.6. Basically, I divided both sides by 0.6, and you'll be practicing that in equations. So then we come to the undoing method. So how do I find 60% of some value? What do I do? Well, what I do is I get 0.6, I multiply by that original value to get my answer 240. Now the undoing method is asking what do I do, and then how do I undo that? How do I reverse that? So to undo multiplying by 0.6, I get the reverse of multiplying with 0.6, which means dividing by 0.6. So what I did was I multiplied the value by 0.6 to get 240. So what I undo is the reverse of multiplying, which is dividing. So I get my answer 240. I divide by 0.6 to undo that multiplying by 0.6. I divide by 0.6 and that undoes what I've done. That brings me back to the original value and I'll get my answer 400. Now just a note, we generally never use the divide by symbol in maths, so we much prefer to write it as a fraction. particularly in algebra. So we're going to say 200 as a fraction over 0.6. So instead of saying 240 divide by 0.6 with the divide symbol, we're going to write 240 divided by 0.6 as a fraction, and that we type that into our calculator and it will get our answer 400. So we looked at 3 different methods. We looked at the unitary method, which means find 1 first, which makes it easy to find out 100. We looked at the algebra method, which was about solving an equation, and we're looking at the undoing method here as well. Now, all 3 methods are valuable. You will use them in different situations, and it's a good idea to practice all of them. But maybe we can focus on the undoing method for a little while here. If I multiply by 0.6 to find my answer, and that is what I do, then to undo that, you will divide by 0.6. But have a look at the questions. Think to yourself, how do I find the answer if I was doing it? And then how do I undo that to get back to the original value? So to find 60%, I multiply by 0.6. To undo that, I divide by 0.6. So have a go at that and have a go at the questions, and the best of luck.